Hello everyone, Namaste from India. So in this video, I will be demonstrating how to build your own word count tool. And please note that this is a challenge number 1 by Mr. John Crickett's Coding Challenge series. And I will be covering this particular coding challenge in JavaScript and Node.js. So without any further delay, let us move on to the challenge. And I will give the link of this particular challenge in the description box. So do please check it out and read the prerequisites of how to build your own WC tool. And we will quickly move on to the steps. So here in the step 0, what we have is we have to set up our own ID editor. In our case, I will be using VS Code and programming language will be JavaScript and Node.js. And you have to download this particular text file and you have to save in that particular folder test.txt. This text file is very important because by this text file you will be performing the operations on that particular file. So now we will move on to the step 1. And here we have multiple steps. So what we have to do in the steps is we will be getting a particular argument, like in this case you will have -c. So this particular argument will be passed in the command line, and when a particular argument is passed, based on that arguments we have to perform some function onto it. So in this case, if the argument is -c, then we will calculate the number of bytes in that particular file. Similarly, we have some more steps, and like here you can notice -l, which will give the number of lines, and here we have -w. Here it gives number of words. So now, our first task is to build a skeleton which will take the particular argument from the command line. So we will build it first. So this is my index.js file. Okay. So our first line will be that args is equal to. So now in Node.js, if you want to receive a particular argument from the command line, you have to use the method of process.argv. And please note that this will return us an particular array, and in that array the first index will be node path, second index will be file path, and the third index, that is sorry, second index will be this particular argument. So what we will do is we will directly fetch the second index from this. And let me check if I am getting the right index or not here. No index.js, and I will pass -c. Okay, so I am getting -c as the argument. Now, our first skeleton task is completed, like we have to get the particular argument from the command line. Now, the second will be, we have to make an if-else statement. So if a particular command argument is being sent from the command line, based on that particular argument, we will redirect it to the particular function. So we will use an if block. If argument c is equals to -c. So what was here? Number of bytes. So we have to return bytes function, and now we will have an else if statement. If arguments is equals to, in step 2 what we have is -l and number of lines. In the third line we have -w for number of words. -w for number of words. Okay. And then we have -em that outputs the number of characters. This is also done. And what do we have at step 5? We have, if no options are provided, then it should be equivalent to -c, -l and -w. Okay, so the combination of all the three functions. So if none of the argument is provided, that means we have to use an else block, and hyphen c hyphen l hyphen w, we will simply pyts. Then we have our count lines. Then we have count words, hyphen c hyphen l hyphen w. Okay, so this basic structure has been done of redirection based on the particular arguments. Now let us move on to our business logic. Now we will do the step number 1. So what we have to do is it takes the command line option C and outputs the number of bytes. Okay, so let me give the function and its name was count bytes. And we will have a try catch here for exception handling. Okay, now in this particular count bytes function, we have to count the number of bytes a particular file is. So here you can notice in the sidebar, I have my test.txt file. But in Node.js, if you want to read one file or do any operations, read, write, or any operations on a particular file, you have to use a fs module. Fs stands for file structure module. So we will import it first. At the top, let fs equal to require fs, and we will be using modern async await with this. So now I will be using this particular promises function of the fs module because I want to handle it by using async and await. Basically, you can use promise or any callback function, but according to the ES6 format, we should prefer using async await. So now here what I will do is let data is equals to await. Now if I am using await here, then I will have to use async function await fs dot. Now we have to read the particular bytes in the particular file. For that we have the function as stat, which will give the statistics of that particular file. So by using the stat, and here I will specify the file name test.txt, and let us see what do we get in the output. Node index.js, and we have to pass hyphen c. Okay, so we are getting an object of type stats, and from here we have dev mode bulk size. Okay, here we have the size, so we want the size from this. So let me type it, but in a good manner. Total number of bytes are data dot size. Now let us check the output. So we are getting total number of bytes are 342192. Let us check the output here, 342190. Okay, so we have 2 extra bytes in our case. Maybe that's because of the programming language constraint. So it's acceptable, 342190, and we have 342192. Okay, now step 1 is completed. Let's move on to the next challenge. Step 2 is if we pass option L, that outputs the number of lines in a file. Okay, so let me quickly build a function count lines, but like catch block. So now I have also to use the fs module. So to use the fs module, I will give you as await, and here I will give as async. So what should we await? Fs dot, and we will do read file in this case because we want to read the file. We want to get the count of lines from the particular file. So that's why we have to use read file. And here I will pass the name of the file test.txt, and the second argument we have to pass as encoding type. So it's a standard to pass UTF-8 encoding. Okay, so now we will be getting the particular file loaded into this data variable. Now the challenge is how will we find the particular number of lines in a file. So if I open this file, so this is a beautiful book of the Art of War by Sun Tzu. I would personally recommend everyone to read this. So here you can notice this is a particular line, the Project Gutenberg ebook of Art of War. And then we have this next line, again this next line. So in the backend of this particular .txt file, there should be a \n after the end of every line, because this \n stands for read new line. So here it is not visible because it's the user output, but in the backend of this .txt file, there should be a /n. Because of that, the next line comes on the line below the previous line. So this is our hint. In JavaScript, we have to separate the lines by using the \n, by using the split method. Now, the logic is, if we use the split method on this particular file, on every line, and we split it up by using \n, then it will give us an array which will have this particular lines in that array. So let me practically demonstrate you. It will be much more easier than let count is equals to data dot split. And on what basis we want to split? I want to split it basis on the basis of \n, and let us see the output. Okay, so we are getting this output. Basically, we are getting an array, and in that array we have the Project Gutenberg, and then we have many lines, and here you can notice \r. So these are the particular lines. So now, as we have got the lines, now our next task will be to get the length, and it is very simple. Dot length. So we are getting the length as 7146. Let me check the outputs. Here we have 7145. Absolutely correct. So now let me change the console.log. Okay, this is done. So our count lines function is also done. Step 2 is done. Okay, let's move on to the step 3. We have -w that outputs the number of words in a file. Okay. So in the same way, we will read the particular file. It's the first basic baby step method. Okay, now the question is, how will you read but count the number of words in a file? So for that, here you can notice a word is the Project Gutenberg ebook, like this. But here you can notice every word is separated by a space. So just like we have the logic as splitting of the data based on \n for new line, in our case, we will split it based on the space. So what will happen is, the JavaScript will check, okay, so I will split this particular files based on the space between the two words. Let me demonstrate you. Let count is equals to data dot split based on the space, and let me log the output for this. And what do we have the command as? Or command is -w. So here we are getting an array, and here we are getting the words separated by a space, the Project Gutenberg ebook, like this. Now let me console.log the length for this. So we are getting the length as 53036. Let me cross check. No, here it is 58164, and here it is 53036. Now what is happening out here is, we are separating the two words based on the space between them. But there can be a situation that the two words are separated by any punctuation mark. Punctuation mark can be a full stop, exclamation mark, question tag, anything it can be. So let me check whether, sorry, see here, in between deals and M, you have a particular comma in between this. Like here you have a full stop in M and A. So we also have to cover this particular use case, where the punctuation marks will also be considered. So for that, we will have to use split, but we will have to modify this particular function by using regex. So basically, we also want to consider the non-white space characters. Considering non-white space characters. So for this, considering the non-white space characters, we have to use regex, and as per my knowledge, it is yes plus. So basically, this will also consider the non-white space characters. Let me cross-check it by running it. So we don't want here particular apostrophes. So we are getting here 58166. Let me cross check. Yes, correct. 58164. So there is a difference of 2, but it is acceptable because of programming language. So now let me properly log this particular message. The total number of words are count. Total number of words are 58166. Okay. Step 3 also completed. Now let us move on to the step 4. Okay, so we have -em that outputs the number of characters in a file. Okay, number of characters in a file. Pretty simple. Let me copy this function downwards. Count characters. And yes, this method will be the same to read the file. And then we'll have to modify this method. Let count is equals to data dot. Now what we have to do is we have to count the number of characters. So in, let's suppose in the line number first we have T, H, E. So here you can notice this particular word and the letters T, H, E in this the word are not separated by any space. Similarly for project P, R, O, these are not separated by any particular space or any punctuation mark in between them. So to handle it, what we can do is we will simply split it up, but here we will not give any space in between this. And we will check the length. Count characters. For counting the characters, what command we have is -em. Okay. So -em and total number of words are, okay, here I need characters. So 339294. Let's cross check. 339292. Okay, 2 bytes extra in our case, but it is acceptable. So this is also working. Step number 4 is also done. Now let's move on to the step number 5, where no options are provided, and it should return as 7145, 58164, and 33210. Okay. So we will not pass any argument, and in this case, it's giving us total number of bytes are 342192. This one, then we have 7146. Okay, the sequence is interchangeable, so it is acceptable. 58166. Okay, let me change it from here also. Okay, now perfect. So step number 5 is also done. And now the final step, I hand it over up to you. You have to sort it out in your programming language. It can be Java, Python, Golang, anything. So I have completed all the steps of this particular challenges in JavaScript Node.js. I hope you like my explanation. If you really like my explanation, please give me a like and also comment me whether I can improve myself. So that was all in this video, guys. Thank you very much for your precious time. This is Piyush Tale signing up. Thanks a lot.